We're back out here once again. And if you're struggling to locate bass during the month of September, then this is the video for you. We're going to talk about where those bass are, what they're doing, and how you can target them. Stick around. You don't want to miss this one.
There we go. Ooh, that's a nice one. Ooh, that's a good one. It's peel and drag. That's a good one. Stay down, stay down. That's a real good one. That's got to be about 3 pounds. Mako rig. Oh, for...
And here is this video's featured comment. Congratulations! If you would like to have a chance to have your comment featured in an upcoming video, all you've got to do is leave a comment. And now, on with the video. Welcome back to Lowbrow Fishing. And if it's anything I get asked nearly as much as, hey Lowbrow, what bait should I tie on? It's, hey Lowbrow, how can I find those bass on my fishery? And I get it. You're a bank angler or you're just a guy out on your John boat and you don't have fancy gadgets, you don't have any fancy electronics, and you're just fishing and trying to put a few bass in the boat and have some fun. But you go out there on the weekends or whenever you can, and you're getting skunked. You're trying all the baits. You're trying everything that you can think of, but bites are few and far between. And you want to know why? Well, that is because September is a very specific time of year when it comes to bass movement for much of the country. Here in South Mississippi, those bass are already starting to group up. But that doesn't mean that they've totally left their summer pattern yet. It's a gradual thing. So they do something that I like to say, they're trying to be as deep as they can, as shallow as they can. Now that sounds like an oxymoron, I know, but what does it mean? Well, it means that those bass still kind of want to be in a little bit deeper water, especially if you've had some sun, you've had some bluebird skies and not a lot of wind. Obviously those bass are going to want to back up just a little bit, but they don't necessarily want to be out deep. They still want to be near shallow water. They still want to be near the bank. So you have to take that into account, and you start to need to look across your fishery and find those spots that are going to fit that criteria. What does that mean? Well, it means like logs that kind of slope down into deeper water, or maybe a bluff wall, or a deeper 45-degree bank, or maybe something up under the end of a dock or a pier. You want to find those places where the bass can slip back just a little bit. They can hang back in that deeper water, but they can still be close enough to the bank. Now, it can still happen offshore, especially if you have something like a submerged creek channel, right? You can fish a submerged creek channel, and right along those edges, right along those grass lines, you're going to find those bass. And it happens every year. As those bass, they're going to cluster up and they're going to begin to migrate. And they're going to follow, as we've said, those old pathways that they've been following for generations. And if you're a bank angler, now is when you can really, well, you can have some great fishing, because a lot of those bass are starting to come back up toward the bank more and more and more. You're going to be able to target not just bass in general, but some nicer bass as they all come up and they start working those underwater pathways and they're finding those landmarks. And that's what we're talking about. Whenever you're looking for those landmarks that those bass are going to be using, those waypoints. You'll find a stump, a rock pile, or something you may not even see from the bank or from the boat. There might be something underwater, a brush pile, a rock, an old tire that those bass are relating to. They'll hang on to that for a couple of hours or more maybe, and then they'll move on. But the best part of that, one of the best parts about when they're on the move, whenever they're migrating, if you find a spot, if you find one of those locations where, like I said, they're going to be as deep as they can, as shallow as they can, they have an urgency, they have a need to come up and try to get closer to the bank and follow those migration routes. But like we said, they still kind of want to hang off in deeper water if they can, especially if you've had bluebird skies and not a lot of wind. Those bass are going to want to hang back. Now, if you've got some cover, if you've got some rain, if you've got some wind, those sorts of things, well, then the bass are probably actually going to be higher up in the water column. They're going to want to come just a little bit closer to the bank, and they're going to be a lot more curious about what's going on in that more shallow water. So you can use that to take advantage of that situation, and it's great for bank anglers this time of year. So obviously, before I head out to the water, I want to have a plan of attack. I want to have a strategy and stick to it. Now, how do I develop that strategy? Well, I'm looking online at places like Navionics, where I'm looking at the depth charts, so I can see just exactly places I'm talking about, places that kind of fall off pretty quickly from the bank. And then I'm going to compare that and contrast that with Google Earth. I can kind of put those two together, especially if I use that rollback feature where I can see where the water's on drawdown and I see a steeper bank and I'm seeing brush piles or rock or any other type of structure or cover. Then I know those are the type of places that I'm especially going to be targeting. Like I said, if you're a bank angler, this is vital. This is key. This is what you should be doing. Go out there, stick to your plan. Target those places, have it in your head. This is where I'm going to go. And when you get out there, stick with that plan. And you'll be surprised at just how well that works. Not only do you feel like you're in control, but you're getting more bites and you're getting information. I didn't get a bite over here. I got a bite over there. You didn't get a bite over here. Cut and retie, try something else, move on. Don't keep your feet stuck in one spot. Don't keep your boat stuck in one spot. Look for those places and keep moving. Now, what am I using? Well, you guys have seen the things that I've been using a lot recently. Things like a square bill, especially if I'm seeing something like a laydown, or if I'm seeing a vegetation line, or if I'm seeing like a rock pile, any type of hard structure especially, I'm going to be working something like a square bill right along that edge because it just works so well. You don't necessarily have to grind it into the dirt. You don't necessarily have to burn it. As a matter of fact, I found that on my fishery, when I'm working them really slow, when I'm just casually kind of working them, number one, what it does is it causes that bait to not go as deep. I'm able to contour that bank how I want to, but I stay just a little bit higher. So when I do catch a piece of vegetation, go ahead and give it a rip. Get a couple of bites that way whenever you have that hard change of direction. And that's key. If you can get that bait to give you a hard change of direction, a lot of times that's when you're going to get your best and biggest reaction bites from those baits. Something else that I'm working, something like a little underspin or even something like a little spinner bait. You guys have seen me messing around with beetle spins and adapting those in certain ways and using small to medium sized spinner baits. That works perfectly because a lot of times those bass are still keying off on those bait schools. But now we're kind of transitioning. Those bass are all around in a transitional state. That's why it's called the fall transition. They go from being out deep, keying in on those little balls of bait, those little fry, the new of the year, all of those shad and shiner, to getting back together in bigger schools and migrating to where they're going to, well, first of all, put the fall feed back on. They're going to have that fall feed where they're going to gorge themselves and find their winter hole where they're going to hold up for the winter. Another type of bait that's working exceptionally well is a jerk bait. And I can use that. I'm using that in a little bit deeper water, kind of away from the bank, but not super deep. As that bank contours down, I'm kind of back just a little bit, not contouring the bank, but away from it just a little bit. And I can work it in that medium depth. If we have a contour that goes down to about 8 to 10 feet or more, I can work that bait just a little bit back in maybe that 3 to 5 foot of water. And that's what's working well for me. I can get those strikes. And best of all, I can still make those casts from the bank. And a lot of times, this time of the year, right now, is when I'm absolutely doing a whole bunch of bank fishing. Because a lot of times, I can't get to the bass any other way. I have to fish from the bank. So as a bank angler, you have a huge advantage as we move deeper into the fall transition. And now is when I'm going to be putting the boat to the side and walking around that bank and doing the same thing, finding those same targets, making sure that when I'm casting, I'm staying a few feet back from that edge, because you can still spook the bass. They know that you're there when you're walking. They can feel the vibration of your footsteps from 15, 20 feet back because of their lateral lines. They are that sensitive. So you be very wary. Looking out into the water, make sure you got good polarized sunglasses. Even on a cloudy day, you need good polarized sunglasses. These are your fish finders right here. Good polarized sunglasses are your fish finders. Make sure you can see in the water. You see those bait fish, you see those panfish, and you know you can make a couple of casts in that area. And then you can maybe step up just a little bit and target your casts under docks, around laydowns, rock piles, or what have you. But follow that process. Make your casts, make a few casts, move on. If you want to, if you do that a few times, 3 or 4 times, you're not getting any bites, maybe cut and retie. Try something else. You know, if a little spinnerbait isn't doing it for you, change to a wacky rig. Do the same thing. Couple of casts here, work that bait in that area, move on. And you will find that more often than not, you'll find those hot spots. And when you find that hot spot, you catch a couple of fish out of there. Kind of dies off, move on. Remember where that spot was? Come back later, and you'll find that that place has repopulated, because those bass, they kind of conga line, right? They kind of get in that spot, do what they're going to do, and then move on, and then the next batch comes in. So a lot of times, like we said, catch a couple fish off, come back, and you'd be surprised at just how easily you can catch so many extra bass just by doing that. So give it a try. Keep it mindful of where those bass are going to be and how they're going to set up. So there you have it. My strategy for quickly and easily locating bass during the month of September. Remember, like I said, they want to be as deep as they can, but they also want to be nearer to the bank relating to structure. You find those hot spots, you're going to find that they repopulate over and over again. And once you start putting all of those things together, you will have the best September bass fishing you've ever had. Thanks for watching Lowbrow Fishing. We'll catch you in the next one.